Billionaire CEO wakes from coma after 5 years. The nurse who saved him is his ex-wife with his twins. After 5 years of silence, his eyes opened, and the first word that came from his lips was my name. Sloan. I froze. The medical chart in my hand suddenly felt impossibly heavy, because the man waking up in that hospital bed was not just another patient. He was Beckett Thorne, billionaire, CEO, and the husband who had shattered my heart into 1,000 pieces before vanishing from my life completely. Sloan. He said it again, his voice rough from years of disuse, his gray eyes struggling to focus in the dim light of the intensive care unit. Is that really you? I should have called for the attending physician. I should have stepped back and let someone else handle this. But I could not move, because looking at me with confusion and something that looked dangerously close to relief was the man I had spent 5 years trying to forget. The man who had no idea that in the room down the hall, I had photos of the 4-year-old twins he did not know existed. His children. Our children. Mr. Thorne. My voice came out steady, professional, betraying none of the chaos erupting inside me. Can you tell me where you are? He blinked slowly, his brow furrowing. I am in a hospital. But why? Why are you in a nurse uniform? Why are you calling me Mr. Thorne? Because that is your name. I moved closer, my training overriding my panic. I need you to stay calm. You have been in an accident. An accident. He tried to sit up, winced, fell back against the pillows. What kind of accident? When? And why are you here? Are you working at this hospital now? Did you finish your research? Each question was a knife to my chest, because they were the questions of a man who did not know, who did not remember. Beckett. I used his first name without thinking. What is the last thing you remember? He closed his eyes, and I watched him struggle to pull memories from whatever fog his brain was trapped in. I remember us having dinner, that new Italian place you loved. You were laughing about something. God, you were so beautiful when you laughed. He opened his eyes again, looking at me with such unguarded affection that I had to look away. And then I remember driving. It was raining. I was thinking about you, about us. And then, nothing. My heart stopped, because I knew exactly when that memory was from. 6 months before he had asked me for a divorce. 6 months before, he had looked at me with ice in his eyes and told me that marrying me had been the biggest mistake of his life. What year do you think it is, Beckett? He told me. And he was wrong by 5 years and 3 months. The man who had destroyed me did not even remember doing it. Have you ever had to save the life of someone who broke your heart? Have you ever stood at the bedside of the person who threw you away like you were nothing, knowing that you hold their survival in your hands? This is the story of a man who lost 5 years of his life to a coma, and a woman who spent those same 5 years building a new life from the ashes of their marriage. But what Beckett Thorne did not know, as he looked at me with love in his eyes, love that should have died years ago, was that the nurse standing before him was not just his ex-wife. She was the mother of the twins he never knew existed. And the truth, when it finally came out, would change everything. If you believe in second chances and impossible reunions, stay with me, because this story is about to take you on a journey through heartbreak, secrets, and the kind of love that refuses to die even when it should. But to understand how we got here, to this moment in a hospital room where past and present collided, I need to take you back to the day my world ended. 5 years and 3 months earlier, the penthouse in downtown Seattle had floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked Puget Sound. On clear days, you could see the Olympic Mountains in the distance, their peaks dusted with snow even in summer. I used to stand at those windows and think I was the luckiest woman alive. I had married a man I loved desperately, a man who had courted me with poetry and late-night conversations about changing the world, a man who looked at me like I was the answer to every question he had ever asked. But on that particular Tuesday in October, standing at those same windows, all I felt was cold. Sloan. Beckett's voice came from behind me. We need to talk. I did not turn around. I had learned over the past 3 months that turning around, looking at him, only made the pain worse. Because the man standing behind me was not the man I had married. That man had been replaced by someone cold, distant, someone who looked at me like I was a problem to be solved rather than a person to be loved. What is it, Beckett? I have spoken with my lawyers. The divorce papers will be ready by Friday. Even though I had known this was coming, even though we had been living like strangers, In our own home for weeks, the words still hit me like a physical blow. I gripped the window frame to steady myself. Just like that. My voice sounded hollow even to my own ears. 3 years of marriage, and just like that, it is over. It has been over for a while, Sloan. We both know that. I finally turned to face him. Beckett stood in the doorway of his home office, wearing one of his perfectly tailored suits, his dark hair styled with precision, every inch the billionaire CEO. At 32, he had built Thorne Innovations into one of the most successful tech companies in the country. He was brilliant, driven, ruthless when he needed to be. I had fallen in love with his intensity, his passion for innovation, his secret softness that he showed only to me. Except that softness was gone now. Had been gone for months. Do I know that? I asked, hating how my voice shook. Because 3 months ago, you told me you loved me. 3 months ago, we were talking about the future, about maybe starting a family, about the research project we were going to collaborate on. And then you just changed, like someone flipped a switch. People grow apart, Sloan. It happens. Not like this. Not this fast. Not without a reason. Beckett adjusted his cufflinks. A gesture I had learned meant he was about to say something that would hurt. The reason is that I made a mistake. I married too young, too fast. I let emotion override logic, and now I am correcting that error. Correcting that error. I repeated the words, each one tasting like poison. That is what I am to you now. An error? You are a brilliant woman, Sloan. You have your PhD in biomedical engineering. You are talented, intelligent, and you will find someone who can give you what you need. But that someone is not me. And what do I need, Beckett? Since you seem to know me so well, you need someone who can put you first. Someone who is not consumed by building an empire. Someone who wants the same things you want. I want you. I hated how desperate I sounded, but I was past pride. I love you. Whatever has changed, whatever I did wrong, we can fix it. You did not do anything wrong. His voice was flat, emotionless. This is not about you failing. It is about us being fundamentally incompatible. I just did not see it before. Incompatible. 3 months ago, you said I was your perfect match. 3 months ago, I was deluding myself. The cruelty in his tone, the complete dismissal of everything we had built together, finally broke through my desperate hope. I felt something inside me shift. Harden. Fine. My voice came out cold now, matching his energy. If that is how you feel, then fine. I will sign your papers. I will move out. And I will do my best to forget I ever loved you. Something flickered in his eyes. Pain, maybe. Or regret. But it was gone so fast I might have imagined it. I will make sure the settlement is generous. You will be taken care of financially. I do not want your money, Beckett. Take it anyway. You will need time to re-establish your career. Consider it compensation for 3 years of your life. Compensation, as if our marriage had been a job. As if the nights I had held him when he was stressed about the company, the mornings we had stayed in bed, planning our future, the quiet moments of joy and connection had been nothing more than billable hours. Get out. I said it quietly but with steel underneath. Get out of this room. Get out of my sight. And do not pretend you have any decency left. I will have my assistant arrange for movers to pack your things. You can stay with friends or in a hotel. The penthouse is in my name. Of course it is. Everything is in your name, Beckett. The penthouse, the cars, the future we planned. All of it yours. And now you are taking it all back. He had the grace to look uncomfortable. I'm trying to make this as painless as possible. Painless. I laughed, and even I could hear the brittleness in it. You are destroying our marriage, and you want it to be painless. Tell me, Beckett, when did you become so good at lying? I am not lying. I am being honest for the first time in months. Then tell me the truth. Tell me why. 3 months ago, everything was fine. Better than fine. We were happy. And then you just shut down. You stopped touching me. Stopped talking to me about anything that mattered. Started working 18-hour days and looking at me like I was a stranger. What happened? What changed? For a moment, just a moment, I thought he might tell me. His jaw tightened, his hands clenched at his sides, and something that looked like anguish crossed his face. But then it was gone, replaced by that cold mask. Nothing changed. I just finally admitted to myself what I had been denying, that this marriage was a mistake, that you were a mistake. The words landed exactly as he intended them to, precisely calculated to cause maximum damage. I see. I turned back to the window, unable to look at him anymore. Then there is nothing left to say. The settlement papers will be ready Friday. My lawyer will contact you with the details. I did not respond. I just stared out at the city lights, at the life I had thought was mine, and waited for him to leave. I heard his footsteps cross the marble floor, heard the door to his office close. And then, 10 minutes later, I heard the front door of the penthouse open and close as well. He had left, just like that. After 3 years of marriage, he had walked out without even saying goodbye. I stood at that window for hours, watching the sun set over the Sound, watching the city lights flicker on, watching my life as I knew it dissolve into nothing. 2 weeks later, I signed the divorce papers in a sterile conference room downtown. Beckett did not even bother to attend. He sent his lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman in an expensive suit, who pushed the papers across the table with professional efficiency. Sign here, and here, initial here. This paragraph confirms you are waiving claim to any future earnings from Thorne Innovations. This one establishes that you are taking a one-time settlement of $2 million and no ongoing support. I barely heard her. I just signed where she indicated, my hand moving automatically, my heart somewhere far away. It is done. The lawyer collected the papers, sliding them into a briefcase. The marriage is officially dissolved. The settlement will be transferred to your account within 48 hours. Is he? I stopped myself. It did not matter. He was not my husband anymore. Where he was or what he was doing was no longer my concern. But the lawyer must have seen something in my face because she answered the unspoken question anyway. Mr. Thorne is in New York on business. He asked me to convey his wishes for your future success. How generous of him. The lawyer paused at the door. For what it is worth, Miss Hartley, you are better off. Beckett Thorne is a brilliant businessman, but he is not built for personal relationships. He consumes everything around him in service of his ambitions. You got out before he consumed you too. After she left, I sat in that conference room for a long time, staring at my empty ring finger, feeling the ghost of the weight that had been there for 3 years. I had loved him. God, I had loved him so much. Enough to overlook the warning signs. Enough to believe that love could be enough. But it had not been enough. And now I was 28 years old, divorced, unemployed because I had put my research career on hold to support his company, and completely untethered. I should have been devastated. And part of me was, but another part, a smaller part that would grow stronger over the coming months, was angry, furious even, because Beckett Thorne had made me feel like I was not enough, like I was the problem, like loving him had been my greatest failure, and I refused to accept that narrative. I moved out of the penthouse into a small apartment in Capitol Hill. I refused most of the settlement money, taking only enough to cover expenses while I figured out my next move. I cut my hair, bought new clothes, deleted every photo of us from my phone. If Beckett wanted me erased from his life, I would erase him from mine just as thoroughly. Except the universe had other plans. 3 weeks after the divorce was finalized, I woke up feeling nauseated. I attributed it to stress, the upheaval of my life, the grief I was trying to ignore. But when the nausea continued for a week, I bought a pregnancy test and stared at the positive result with a mixture of shock, joy, and absolute terror. I was pregnant with Beckett Thorne's child, the man who had thrown me away, who had called our marriage a mistake, who had walked out of my life. Without looking back, had left me with a piece of himself that I could not simply delete or discard. I sat on the bathroom floor of my tiny apartment and cried, for everything I had lost, for everything I was about to face alone, for the impossible situation I now found myself in. Should I tell him? Did he have a right to know? I called his office. The receptionist told me he was unavailable. I called his personal cell. The number had been disconnected. I went to the Thorne Innovations building downtown, was stopped by security, and told that Mr. Thorne was traveling indefinitely and was not taking personal meetings. I even went back to the penthouse, but new owners were already moving in, a young couple with a baby and matching wedding rings. They looked at me with concern when they saw me standing on the doorstep, clearly fighting tears. "Are you all right?" the woman asked. "I used to live here." The words came out before I could stop them. "I used to think I would raise my children here. The woman's face filled with sympathy. She reached out, touched my arm gently. "I am sorry. Whatever happened, I hope you find happiness somewhere better." I left before I could completely break down, but her words stayed with me. Somewhere better. Maybe there was a somewhere better. Maybe this baby, or babies as I would discover at my first ultrasound, could be my somewhere better. I tried one more time to reach Beckett. I called his assistant, a woman named Andrea, who had always been kind to me. "Andrea, it is Sloan. I really need to speak with Beckett. It is important." There was a long pause. Then, in a voice that was not unkind but was very firm, Andrea said, "Miss Hartley, Mr. Thorne has made it very clear that he does not wish to have any contact with you. I am sorry, but I cannot help you. Can you at least give him a message? Tell him I called. Tell him it is urgent. I can pass along the message, but I cannot guarantee he will respond." He never did. After that, I made my decision. If Beckett Thorne wanted nothing to do with me, if he had made himself so completely unreachable, then I would not force fatherhood on him. I would not chase after a man who had made his feelings abundantly clear. I would do this alone. My mother, bless her, moved from Portland to Seattle when I told her I was pregnant. She rented a small apartment 2 blocks from mine and became my support system, my cheerleader, my lifeline. "You are going to be an amazing mother." She told me this constantly, especially on the days when I doubted everything. "And those babies are lucky to have you." Babies. Plural. Because at my 8-week ultrasound, the technician had gone very quiet, moved the wand around my belly, and then smiled. "Well, there is the reason you are so sick. You are having twins." Twins. I had stared at the screen, at the 2 tiny flickering heartbeats, and felt my entire world shift again. Not 1 baby. 2. 2 little lives depending entirely on me. I enrolled in an accelerated nursing program. I had always been interested in medicine, had even considered medical school before choosing biomedical engineering. Nursing felt right, practical, something I could finish before the babies came, something that would provide stability and income. I studied while my belly grew. I took exams between doctor appointments. I completed clinical rotations while dealing with pregnancy complications. And when Jasper and Ruby were born 5 weeks early, tiny and fragile, and perfect, I was 3 weeks away from finishing my certification. My mother was with me in the delivery room. She held my hand through the contractions, wiped my tears, and was the first person besides me to hold my children. "They look like him." She said it softly, not accusingly, as she cradled Jasper in her arms while I held Ruby. "They have his eyes." She was right. Even as newborns, I could see Beckett in their faces. The shape of their eyes, the set of their mouths. They were half him, whether he knew it or not. "Do you regret not telling him?" my mother asked. "Every day," I admitted, but then I remember how he made me feel, how disposable I was to him. And I think these babies deserve better than a father who sees them as obligations. If he ever wants to be part of their lives, it has to be because he chooses them, not because I forced his hand. My mother nodded. "You are stronger than you know, Sloan, and you are going to give these children a beautiful life." I believed her, or at least I tried to. The first year was brutal. Newborn twins, nursing school finals, postpartum depression that I barely acknowledged, financial stress despite the settlement money I had reluctantly accepted. There were nights I sat on the floor of the nursery, surrounded by crying, babies and piles of laundry, and wondered how I was going to survive. But I did survive. More than that, I built a life. I finished my nursing certification when the twins were 2 months old. Started working at Seattle Metropolitan Hospital when they were 4 months old. My mother became their primary caregiver while I worked long shifts, learning everything I could, proving myself in a field that was entirely new to me. "Sloan, you have a gift for this," my supervisor told me after I had been working for 6 months. "You connect with patients in a way most nurses never do. Have you considered specializing?" I had not, but the suggestion planted a seed. I started paying attention to the different departments. Pediatrics called to me because of my children. Oncology moved me because of the courage I witnessed. But it was the neurological intensive care unit that captured my heart. Coma patients, brain injuries, people trapped in their own minds, dependent on others to advocate for them, to believe in their potential to wake up. I understood that kind of trapped. I had spent 3 months of my marriage trapped in confusion, not understanding why the man I loved had turned into a stranger. And I had spent the year after trapped in grief, unable to move forward or back. These patients needed someone who understood what it felt like to be powerless, who would fight for them anyway. I specialized in neurological critical care, took additional training, worked double shifts to gain experience, and within 3 years, I was promoted to head of the unit. My life became the twins and the hospital. Jasper and Ruby grew into bright, funny, curious children who asked a million questions and filled our small apartment with laughter. They knew they had a father somewhere. I showed them one photo, a picture from my wedding day where Beckett and I were laughing at something, genuinely happy. "This is your daddy," I told them when they were old enough to ask. He and I loved each other very much, but sometimes grown-ups cannot be together, even when they love each other. It does not mean he does not love you. It just means our family looks different than some other families. "Where is he?" Ruby asked. She was 4 years old, sitting on my lap, studying the photo with intense concentration. "He is far away. Will we ever meet him?" "I do not know, sweetheart. Maybe someday." Jasper, more practical even at 4, asked, "Does he know about us?" I hesitated, then decided on the truth. "No, he does not." "Why not?" "Because I chose my words carefully. Because when you were born, I could not reach him to tell him. And as time went on, it got harder to know how to explain. But it does not mean you are not wanted. I wanted you. Grandma wanted you. And you have so many people who love you." "Okay." Jasper accepted this with a shrug and went back to his puzzle. But Ruby kept staring at the photo. "He looks nice," she said finally. "I bet he would love us if he knew us." "I bet he would too, baby." I lived in a strange limbo. Half of me had moved on, had built a life that was full and meaningful. But the other half was frozen in time, still waiting for Beckett to come back and explain, to tell me what had happened, to make sense of the senseless. I never dated. I told myself it was because I was too busy, because the twins needed stability, because I was content alone. But the truth was simpler and more painful. I had never stopped loving Beckett Thorne, even after everything, even after the cruelty and the abandonment and the silence. Some part of my heart was still his. I followed news about Thorne Innovations the way some people follow celebrities. The company continued to thrive, launched new products, expanded internationally. But Beckett himself had vanished from public view after our divorce. No more interviews, no more conference appearances, just silence. I told myself I did not care, that his life was no longer my concern. But late at night, when the twins were asleep and the apartment was quiet, I would sometimes look at that wedding photo and wonder what had changed, wonder if he ever thought about me, wonder if he had any idea what he had missed. And then, 3 months after our divorce, Beckett Thorne's car had gone off the road on a rainy night on Highway 20. I did not find out about the accident when it happened. I was not his emergency contact anymore. I was not in his life at all. I only learned about it months later when I saw a brief news article. Billionaire CEO Beckett Thorne remains in coma after tragic accident. The article was short, clinical. It mentioned his company, his achievements, the mysterious single car crash. It said he was being cared for at an undisclosed medical facility. I stared at that article for hours. He had been in a coma for months. While I'd been pregnant, giving birth, raising our children, he had been unconscious in a hospital somewhere, unreachable in a completely different way than I had imagined. Part of me wanted to find him, to go to whatever hospital held him and sit by his bedside, to tell him about Jasper and Ruby, to beg him to wake up. But the rational part of me, the part that had been building walls around my heart for self-preservation, said no. He had left me. Whatever had happened after, whatever consequences he was facing, were not my responsibility. So I did nothing. I closed the article, went back to my life, and tried very hard not to think about Beckett Thorne lying somewhere, trapped in silence. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of irony, because 5 years later, when Seattle Metropolitan Hospital reorganized its departments and merged several wings, I found myself reviewing patient files for all long-term coma cases that would be transferred to my unit. I was sitting in my office, working through a stack of medical histories when I saw the name. Thorne, Beckett. My coffee mug slipped from my hand, shattering on the floor. Hot liquid spread across the tile, but I could not move, could not breathe, could only stare at that name on the page. He was here, in this hospital, had been here the entire time, just in a different wing. For 5 years, I had been working in the same building where my ex-husband lay in a coma. We had been separated by a few floors, and a twist of fate that suddenly felt a lot less random. I read through his medical file with shaking hands. The accident report, the initial injuries, the surgeries, the 5 years of stable but unresponsive coma, the notes from various doctors, all saying essentially the same thing: no change. Prognosis uncertain. Family insists on continued care. Family. His mother, according to the records. Beatrice Thorne visited regularly, made all medical decisions, paid for a private room and round-the-clock care. There was no mention of a wife, because of course there was not. I had not been his wife for 5 years. I should have recused myself immediately. Should have told my supervisor about the conflict of interest and asked for the case to be transferred to someone else. But I did not, because I was the best at what I did. And despite everything, despite all the pain and anger and unresolved grief, I could not let Beckett receive anything less than the best care. Also, if I was being honest with myself, I needed to see him. Needed to know if any part of the man I had loved was still in there. So I took his case. The first time I walked into his room, I had to pause in the doorway to steady myself. He was thinner than I remembered. His dark hair had threads of silver now. His face was more angular, aged by 5 years of immobility. But he was still fundamentally Beckett, still the man I had fallen in love with at a charity gala 7 years ago. He lay perfectly still, connected to monitors and 4 lines, breathing with mechanical steadiness. His eyes were closed. His hands rested at his sides. He looked peaceful, almost like he was sleeping. But he was not sleeping. He was trapped, lost somewhere inside his own mind. I moved closer, my nurse training taking over, checking his vitals, reviewing his chart, assessing his condition with professional detachment. But when I was done with the medical assessment, I did something I did with all my coma patients. I talked to him. "Hello, Beckett." My voice was barely a whisper. "It has been a long time." He did not respond. Of course he did not. "I am your nurse now." Ironic, right? You probably never imagined that the wife you threw away would end up being responsible for keeping you alive. Life has a strange sense of humor. Still nothing. Just the steady beep of monitors. I reviewed his medical history. "You have been here 5 years. 5 years of silence. Do you know how many times I wondered what happened to you? How many times I almost tried to find you, just to get closure?" I sat down in the chair beside his bed, suddenly exhausted. "I have so much to tell you, so much you missed. But I do not even know if you can hear me, if any part of you is still in there." I stayed for 10 more minutes, talking about nothing important. The weather, hospital politics, generic safe topics. I did not mention the twins. Not yet. Not when I did not know if he could hear me. Over the next 2 weeks, I made Beckett's care my personal priority. I implemented new protocols based on the latest research in coma recovery. I monitored his brain activity obsessively. I talked to him during every assessment, keeping my topics neutral but my presence constant. And then I started noticing things. Small things. Subtle changes that the previous care team might have missed. His brain activity increased slightly when I spoke. His hand would occasionally twitch, not random spasms, but as if he was trying to respond. His eyes moved beneath his lids more frequently. He was not as deep in the coma as everyone thought. Some part of him was fighting to surface. I increased the stimulation. Played music, read to him, adjusted his medication to optimize brain function, and 3 weeks after I took over his care, on a Tuesday morning that started like any other, everything changed. I was doing a routine neurological assessment, talking to him as I worked. "Your vitals look good today. Brain activity is elevated. I think you might be able to hear me, Beckett. I think you were in there, trying to wake up." That was when his hand moved, not a random twitch. His fingers curled, as if trying to grip something. My heart rate spiked. "Beckett, can you hear me?" His hand moved again. I hit the call button. "I need the medical team in room 4012 immediately." Over the next hour, I watched as Beckett Thorne slowly, impossibly, began to wake up. His eyes moved more rapidly. His fingers flexed and released. His breathing pattern changed. And then, just as the medical team was rushing in, his eyes opened. He stared at the ceiling, confused, disoriented. His eyes moved around the room, taking in the hospital equipment, the lights, the people surrounding him. And then his gaze landed on me. Our eyes met, and I watched as confusion shifted to recognition. As his dry lips moved, forming a word. Sloan. That was how we ended up here, in this impossible moment, with him awake and looking at me like I was the answer to a prayer, and me standing frozen, holding the secret of our children like a bomb waiting to explode. Mr. Thorne. Dr. Chen, the attending physician, moved forward, blocking his view of me. I am Dr. Chen. You are in Seattle Metropolitan Hospital. You have been in a coma. Do you understand? Beckett's eyes kept trying to find me around the doctor. A coma? His voice was rough, barely audible. For how long? 5 years. I watched his face as he processed that information. The shock, the disbelief, the dawning horror. That is impossible. I am afraid it is not. You were in a single car accident in October, 5 years ago. You have been unconscious ever since. Beckett tried to sit up, but his muscles, atrophied from years of disuse, would not cooperate. He fell back with a grunt of frustration. October, 5 years ago. That would be. He stopped, calculating. No, that cannot be right. I remember. What do you remember? Dr. Chen asked, pulling out a pen light to check his pupils. I remember. Dinner, with Sloan, and driving home, the rain, and then nothing. Dr. Chen glanced at me. He was talking about me, about a dinner that had happened almost 6 years ago, months before our divorce. Mr. Thorne, what year do you think it is? Beckett told him. He was 5 years and 3 months off. I see. Dr. Chen made notes on his chart. You are experiencing some memory loss, which is common after traumatic brain injury and prolonged coma. Do you remember anything after the date you mentioned? Beckett's brow furrowed. He was clearly struggling, trying to pull up memories that would not come. First, no. Just driving. Rain. And then waking up here. He looked around the room again, and this time his gaze locked on me and stayed. Sloan, why are you wearing scrubs? Are you working here? I opened my mouth, not sure what to say, how to explain, but Dr. Chen answered for me. Miss Hartley is your nurse. She is head of our neurological critical care unit and has been overseeing your treatment. My nurse. Beckett looked confused. But you are my wife. The room went very quiet. Dr. Chen looked at me sharply. Miss Hartley? I forced myself to speak. We were married. Past tense. We divorced 5 years and 3 months ago. Divorced. Beckett said the word like it was in a foreign language. That is impossible. We are not divorced. Sloan, what is he talking about? You do not remember. I kept my voice professional, clinical, even though inside I was screaming. You asked me for a divorce 6 months after that dinner, you remember? The papers were finalized 3 months before your accident. No. He shook his head, agitation clear in his face and on the monitors. No, that is not right. I would never. We were happy. We were planning. I love you. Why would I ask for a divorce? Mr. Thorne, you need to calm down. Dr. Chen put a hand on his shoulder. Your heart rate is spiking. Getting upset will not help your recovery. But Beckett was not listening. He was staring at me with desperate confusion. Sloan, please. Tell me what is going on. Tell me the truth. The truth. The truth was complicated and painful and too big for this moment. But before I could figure out what to say, the door burst open, and Beatrice Thorne swept into the room like an ice storm. She was in her late 60s but looked a decade younger, all sharp edges and expensive clothes. Her eyes scanned the room, landed on her son, and filled with tears. Beckett, thank God, you are awake. She moved toward the bed, but then she saw me, and her expression transformed from relief to fury in an instant. What is she doing here? Mother. Beckett looked even more confused. What is going on? Why is everyone acting like Sloan is a stranger? Beatrice's eyes were cold as she looked at me. You did not tell him. Tell me what? Beckett demanded. Will someone please explain what is happening? Beatrice turned to her son, and I saw something almost like satisfaction in her face. She was going to enjoy this. Beckett, that woman is not your wife. You divorced her 5 years ago. She is simply a nurse doing her job, nothing more. I watched Beckett's face as his mother's words sank in. The denial, the confusion, the desperate hope that this was all some kind of mistake. Sloan, his voice broke on my name. Tell me she is wrong. Please. I could not, because she was not wrong, not about the divorce anyway. It is true. The words felt like they were being dragged out of me. We are divorced. Have been for over 5 years. Why? The anguish in that single word almost broke me. Why would I leave you? You said, I had to pause, had to force myself to continue. You said that marrying me was a mistake, that I was holding you back, that you had made an error in judgment and you were correcting it. I said that? He looked horrified. I said those words to you, word for word. Sloan, I do not remember any of that. I swear to you, I do not remember. The monitors were screaming now, his blood pressure dangerously high, his heart rate erratic. Everyone out. Dr. Chen's voice was firm. Now, Mr. Thorne needs to rest. But Beatrice was not done. Before I could leave, she grabbed my arm, her fingers like claws. You stay away from my son. Whatever game you are playing, it ends now. I am his nurse, Mrs. Thorne. I am doing my job. You are manipulating him in a vulnerable state. He does not remember the divorce. And you are going to use that, are you not? I pulled my arm free. The only thing I am doing is ensuring your son receives the best possible medical care. If you have a problem with that, take it up with hospital administration. Oh, I will. Beatrice's voice was venomous. And when I am done, you will be removed from this case and possibly from this hospital entirely. She swept out of the room, leaving me shaking with adrenaline and old wounds torn fresh open. Dr. Chen looked at me with concern. Miss Hartley, perhaps you should recuse yourself from this case. The personal history. I am the best chance he has at a full recovery. I kept my voice steady. I have been treating him for 3 weeks. I am the one who recognized he was close to consciousness. I am the one who implemented the protocols that brought him back. Are you really going to remove me now because his mother is uncomfortable? Dr. Chen hesitated, then sighed. I will support you for now. But Sloan, this is complicated. If he does not remember the divorce, if he thinks you are still married, this could get very messy. I know. And there is clearly unresolved history here. I know. Can you maintain professional boundaries? I looked through the window into Beckett's room, where he lay staring at the ceiling, his face a mask of confusion and pain. I have to, because what I did not tell Dr. Chen, what I could not tell anyone yet, was that this situation was about to get much, much more complicated. Beckett did not remember our divorce, but he also did not know about the twins, and somehow I was going to have to tell him that the woman he thought was still his wife had spent 5 years raising the children he had no idea existed. If you are wondering what I would do next, so was I, because there was no handbook for this situation, no protocol for telling a man who just woke up from a 5-year coma that his entire life has changed in ways he cannot even imagine. But I was going to have to figure it out, because Jasper and Ruby deserved a father, and Beckett deserved the truth, even if that truth was going to shatter whatever fragile peace we might have found in this impossible reunion. This is the story of second chances and terrible timing, of love that should have died but somehow survived, of a family broken apart and maybe, just maybe, finding a way back together. But first, I had to get through the next 24 hours without falling apart. Spoiler alert, I did not succeed. The rest of that day passed in a blur of medical assessments, paperwork, and careful avoidance. I managed to stay out of Beckett's room for most of it. Dr. Chen and the neurology team ran a battery of tests. Memory assessments, cognitive function evaluations, physical therapy consultations to address the muscle atrophy from 5 years of immobility. I reviewed all the results from my office, maintaining my supervisory role without direct patient contact. The findings were both encouraging and complicated. Physically, Beckett was in remarkable condition for someone who had been comatose for 5 years. His care team had done excellent work preventing bed sores, maintaining muscle tone as much as possible, and keeping his body functional. He would need extensive physical therapy, but Dr. Chen was optimistic about a full recovery. Cognitively, the news was more complex. Beckett's intelligence was intact. His problem-solving skills, his ability to process new information, his analytical thinking, all of it was functioning normally, but his memory had significant gaps. He remembered his childhood clearly. his education, building Thorn Innovations from the ground up, meeting me at that charity gala, our courtship, our wedding, the first 2.5 years of our marriage, and then nothing, a complete blank from about 6 months before I filed for divorce until the moment he woke up in that hospital bed. 5 years and 9 months of his life, gone. Dr. Chen came to my office late that afternoon with the full neurological report, retrograde amnesia affecting a specific period. He sat across from my desk, looking as tired as I felt. It is unusual but not unheard of in cases of severe traumatic brain injury. The memories might return over time, or they might not, so he might never remember asking me for a divorce. Possibly. Dr. Chen studied me carefully. How do you want to handle this, Sloan? From a medical standpoint, forcing memories or confronting him with traumatic information could impede his recovery. The brain needs time to heal. Stress can cause setbacks or even trigger another medical event. So you are saying I should lie to him? Pretend we are still married? I am saying you should be careful about how much truth you give him at once. He has already learned that he lost 5 years of his life. That is traumatic enough. Adding more shock to his system right now could be dangerous. I thought about Jasper and Ruby at home with my mother, about the conversation I was going to have with them tonight, about how to explain that their father was awake but did not know they existed. What about his mother? I asked. She's going to push for me to be removed from his care. I have already spoken with administration. Given your expertise and the fact that you are the reason Mr. Thorne regained consciousness, they are supporting your continued involvement in his care. However, Dr. Chen paused. Mrs. Thorne has requested a meeting tomorrow morning with you, me, and the hospital administrator. She wants to discuss the situation. Of course she does. Can you handle that? I have been handling Beatrice Thorne's disapproval since the day I married her son. I can handle one more meeting. After Dr. Chen left, I sat in my office staring at the family photo on my desk. Me, Jasper, and Ruby at the zoo last summer. All of us laughing at the penguins. My babies with Beckett's eyes and Beckett's smile, living a life their father knew nothing about. I picked up my phone and called my mother. How are the twins? I asked when she answered. Wonderful as always. Ruby painted you a picture of a butterfly. Jasper built a tower out of blocks that is taller than he is. They want to know when you are coming home. Soon. I hesitated. Mom, I need to tell you something. I heard the shift in her tone. What happened? Beckett is awake. Silence on the other end of the line. Then quietly, oh, Sloan. He woke up this morning. And Mom, he does not remember the divorce. He thinks we are still married. My mother, who had held me together through the worst moments of my life, who had sacrificed her retirement to help. Me, raised the twins, who had never once judged me for the choices I made, said exactly what I needed to hear. What do you need? I felt tears threatening for the first time all day. I need to figure out how to tell him about Jasper and Ruby, and I need to do it in a way that does not destroy him, or confuse them, or make everything impossibly worse than it already is. When are you going to tell him? I do not know. His doctors say I should wait, that too much information too fast could harm his recovery. But how can I not tell him? Those are his children. Then you tell him when the time is right. You trust your instincts, sweetheart. They have not failed you yet. After we hung up, I sat in the growing darkness of my office and tried to figure out what right looked like in this situation. But before I could come to any conclusions, there was a knock on my door. Come in. The door opened, and Beckett wheeled himself into my office in a hospital wheelchair. He looked terrible, exhausted, pale, shaking slightly from the exertion of moving himself, but his eyes were determined. You should be resting. I stood up automatically, my nurse instincts overriding everything else. You have been awake for less than 12 hours. Your body has been through massive trauma. I needed to see you. His voice was still rough, but stronger than this morning. Without my mother, without the doctors, just us. Beckett, please, Sloan, just 5 minutes. I need to understand what happened. I should have said no. Should have called for an orderly to take him back to his room. Should have maintained professional boundaries. But I had loved this man once, loved him enough to marry him, to plan a future with him, to be destroyed when he left. And looking at him now, vulnerable and confused and so obviously struggling, I could not bring myself to turn him away. 5 minutes. I sat back down behind my desk, putting furniture between us as a barrier. What do you want to know? Everything. He wheeled closer, stopping on the other side of my desk. I want to know why I would divorce you. What happened in those months I cannot remember. I want to know why I am here, what the accident was, why I was in a coma for 5 years. I want to know. He paused, and something that looked like fear crossed his face. I want to know if you hate me. The question caught me off guard. Do I hate you? You would have every right to. If I said the things my mother told me, I said. If I divorced you for no reason, you would be justified in hating me. I considered lying. It would have been easier. But he had asked for truth, and something in me needed to give it to him. I did hate you. For a while, after the divorce, after you made yourself completely unreachable, after I tried to contact you and was told you wanted nothing to do with me. Yes, I hated you. And now, I met his eyes across the desk. Now I mostly just feel sad about everything we lost. We do not have to lose it. He leaned forward, intensity radiating from him. I know I do not remember what happened. I know there is this gap in my life that I might never get back. But Sloan, I remember loving you. I remember how happy we were. Can we not get that back? You are talking about going back to a marriage that ended 5 years ago. A marriage I do not remember ending. From my perspective, we were happy one day, and then I woke up divorced. That does not make sense. Something must have happened. Something that changed me, made me say those things. Something did happen. You changed. Over the course of 3 months, you became someone I did not recognize. Cold, distant, cruel even. That is not me. Beckett's voice was firm. That is not who I am. You know that. I knew who you were. Past tense. I do not know who you are now. I am the same man who fell in love with you at that charity gala. The same man who proposed to you on the beach at sunset. The same man who promised to love you for the rest of his life. Are you? Because that man broke those promises. That man threw me away like I meant nothing. And I do not remember doing that. Does that not tell you something? That whatever happened, it was not real? Not really. I wanted to believe him. God, some part of me that had never stopped loving him, wanted desperately to believe that there was an explanation, that the cruel things he had said were not the truth. But I had lived through too much, survived too much, to simply accept easy answers. Even if you are right, even if something made you act that way, even if the divorce was some kind of mistake, we cannot simply undo 5 years, Beckett. Too much has changed. Then tell me what changed. Help me understand. This was it. The moment where I could tell him about Jasper and Ruby, where I could explain that the biggest change of all was 2 4-year-old children sleeping in my apartment right now. But Dr. Chen's warning echoed in my mind. Too much too fast could harm his recovery. And beyond that, I had to think about the twins. They deserved better than to be dropped into their father's life as a shocking revelation. They deserved a father who was ready for them, who wanted them, not one who was still trying to figure out his own life. I changed. I said instead. I had to rebuild myself from scratch after our marriage ended. I had to figure out who I was without you. And I became someone different, stronger, maybe, definitely more independent. I do not need someone to take care of me anymore. I never wanted to take care of you like you were helpless. Beckett's voice was quiet. I wanted to be your partner, your equal. You were, until you were not. Let me be that again. Let me prove that whatever happened, whoever I became, I can be better. I can be the man you fell in love with. You cannot just decide that, Beckett. Trust is not something you can demand. It has to be earned. Then let me earn it. We stared at each other across my desk. The air between us felt electric, charged with 5 years of unresolved emotion. Your 5 minutes are up, I said finally. You need to get back to your room before you exhaust yourself. Sloan, please. I could not keep the weariness out of my voice. I have been awake for 16 hours. I just watched my ex-husband wake up from a 5-year coma and look at me like no time has passed at all. I am running on empty here. I need you to go. He studied my face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Okay, I will go. But this conversation is not over. Yes, it is. We have nothing more to discuss beyond your medical care. We have everything to discuss. He started wheeling toward the door, then paused. Sloan, I do not know what I did to you in those missing months, but I know that I loved you more than anything in the world, and I do not believe that could just disappear, even if I cannot remember it. So, I am not giving up on us, on the possibility that we could find our way back to each other. There is no us anymore. Maybe not yet, but there could be. He left before I could argue further. I sat in my dark office, put my head in my hands, and finally let myself cry. For everything we had been, for everything we had lost, for the impossible situation I now found myself in, and for the fact that some traitorous part of my heart had skipped when he said he was not giving up on us. I drove home an hour later, exhausted and emotionally wrung out. My mother took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug. That bad? Worse. I leaned into her embrace, grateful for her steady presence. He came to my office, told me he wants to get back together, that he does not believe our love could just disappear. Oh, honey, I do not know what to do, Mom. Half of me wants to tell him everything. About the twins, about what really happened, about all of it. But the other half is terrified. What if knowing about Jasper and Ruby is the only reason he wants me back? What if he cannot actually remember loving me and is just going through the motions? Those are valid fears. And what if I tell him and he rejects them? Or worse, what if he wants them but not me? What if this turns into some custody battle where I lose my children because he has unlimited resources and I am just a nurse who kept their existence secret? Sloan, breathe. My mother pulled back, holding me by the shoulders. You are catastrophizing. Let's focus on what we know. Beckett is awake. He does not remember the divorce. He thinks he still loves you. Those are facts. Everything else is speculation. But I have to tell him about the twins. Yes, you do. But it does not have to be tonight or even tomorrow. You can take time to figure out the right way to do it. Time to let him recover enough to handle the information. Time to prepare Jasper and Ruby for meeting their father properly. I nodded, trying to calm the panic swirling in my chest. You are right. I feel like I am standing on the edge of a cliff, and one wrong move will send everything crashing down. Then we will be careful about where you step. My mother smiled gently. You have navigated impossible situations before. You will navigate this one too. Mommy, a small voice called from the hallway. I turned to see Ruby standing there in her pajamas, her curly dark hair a mess around her face, clutching her stuffed bunny. Hey baby. I went to her, scooping her up, even though she was getting too big for it. What are you doing up? Could not sleep. She wrapped her arms around my neck. I had a dream about the daddy in the picture. My heart stuttered. What kind of dream? He was smiling at me, and he said he wanted to meet me and Jasper. Ruby pulled back to look at my face with those gray eyes that were so much like Beckett's it hurt. Do you think he really does want to meet us? I chose my words carefully. I think he would love you both very much if he knew you. Then we should tell him about us. Ruby said it with the simple logic of a 4-year-old. Then he can know us and love us, and we can have a daddy like the other kids. It is more complicated than that, sweetheart. Why? Because grown-up things usually are. I carried her toward her bedroom. Come on, let's get you back to bed. Jasper was awake too, sitting up in his bed with a book, even though the lights were off. You should be sleeping, I told him as I tucked Ruby back into her bed. I was reading by nightlight. Jasper held up his book about space. Did you know that there are probably billions of Earth-like planets in our galaxy? The odds of us being alone are basically 0. That is fascinating, sweetheart. But it is bedtime, not science time. Mom, Jasper set down his book and looked at me with an expression too serious for a 4-year-old. Mom, Jasper set down his book and looked at me with an expression too serious for a 4-year-old. Ruby says she dreamed about our dad. Is he okay? I froze. Why do you ask that? Because you have been sad lately. And you told us he was far away. But sometimes when people are far away and you are sad about them, it means they are sick or hurt or, he paused, or dead. He is not dead. I sat on the edge of his bed, smoothing his dark hair back from his forehead. But he has been very sick for a long time. Can we help him get better? If we sent him a picture or a card or something? Maybe. I did not have the energy to explain that their father had no idea they existed. That would be a very nice thing to do. I could draw him a picture. Ruby offered from her bed. Of our family. That would be beautiful, baby. After I finally got them settled and asleep, I returned to the living room where my mother was making tea. They are asking about him more. She handed me a mug. Ruby's dream. Jasper's questions. It is like they know something is shifting. Children are perceptive that way. What are you going to tell them? I sank onto the couch, wrapping my hands around the warm mug. The truth. Soon. I just need to figure out how. And Beckett? When are you telling him? I do not know. The doctors say to wait, to let him recover, but every day I do not tell him feels like another lie. My mother sat beside me. Can I give you some advice? Always. Stop trying to protect everyone else. Stop worrying about his recovery and his mother's reaction and the twins' feelings and what the hospital will think. For once, think about what you need. What would make this situation bearable for you? I thought about it, really thought about it. I need to know if his feelings are real. I said finally, not just residual emotion from memories, not just guilt over the divorce he does not remember. I need to know if he could actually love me as I am now, not as I was 5 years ago. Then that is what you figure out first, before you tell him about the twins, before you make any decisions about the future. You figure out if there is anything real left between you. And if there is not, then you tell him he has children, you work out a CO parenting arrangement, and you move on with your life. It sounded so simple when she said it like that. But nothing about this situation was simple. The next morning, I arrived at the hospital to find Beatrice Thorne already in the administrator's office. The meeting was exactly as hostile as I expected. Miss Hartley. Beatrice's voice was ice. I have been reviewing the timeline of my son's care. It seems quite coincidental that he woke up shortly after you took over his case. Coincidental? I kept my voice professional. Or the result of updated treatment protocols and intensive neurological stimulation based on current research. Research you just happened to implement on your ex-husband. I implement cutting-edge treatments on all my patients, Mrs. Thorne. That is why I am head of this department. The hospital administrator, a woman named Patricia Reeves, intervened. Mrs. Thorne, I understand your concerns, but the fact remains that Miss Hartley's interventions resulted in your son regaining consciousness. That is a positive outcome. I want her removed from his care. Beatrice's tone left no room for argument. There is a clear conflict of interest. She could manipulate him in his vulnerable state. How exactly do you think I would manipulate him? I could not keep the edge out of my voice. He knows we are divorced. He knows I am his nurse. What manipulation do you imagine is happening? You could use his memory loss against him. Make him believe things that are not true. Take advantage of his confusion. To what end? I do not want his money. I do not want his company. I do not want anything from him except for him to recover fully. Then why are you still in his life at all? Beatrice leaned forward, her eyes hard. You have had 5 years to move on. Why not let someone without personal history treat him? Because I am the best. I matched her intensity. Because I care about my patients' outcomes more than my own comfort. And because despite our history, I would never let Beckett receive substandard care if I could prevent it. How noble. The sarcasm was thick. And what happens when he remembers the divorce? When he remembers why he left you? The words stung as she intended them to, but I kept my expression neutral. Then he will have his memories back, which is the goal of treatment. Patricia Reeves cleared her throat. I have reviewed this situation from all angles. While unusual, there is no policy violation in Miss Hartley continuing to treat Mr. Thorne. She disclosed a prior relationship to her supervisor. She has maintained professional boundaries, and her results speak for themselves. This is unacceptable. Beatrice stood abruptly. I will be speaking to the board of directors. That is your right. Patricia's voice remained calm. But until and unless they overrule this decision, Miss Hartley remains on the case. After Beatrice stormed out, Patricia looked at me with sympathy. That woman is a piece of work. She has never liked me. Not when I was married to her son. Certainly not now. Can you handle this, Sloane? Professionally and personally? I do not have a choice. Beckett deserves the best care possible, and that is what I am going to give him. What I did not say was that Beatrice's words had hit a nerve. What happens when he remembers why he left you? Because I did not know why. That was the question that had haunted me for 5 years. What had I done wrong? What had been so terrible about me that it made him stop loving me? And if his memories came back, would I finally get my answer? Or would the not knowing have been better? I spent the rest of the morning reviewing Beckett's progress with the physical therapy team. His first session had gone well. He was weak, his muscles atrophied from disuse, but his determination was evident. He is pushing himself too hard. The lead physical therapist told me, trying to do too much too fast. I had to physically stop him from attempting to stand unsupported. That sounds like him. Stubbornness was one of Beckett's defining traits. Can you talk to him? As his nurse? He might listen to you. I doubt that, but I will try. I found him in his room that afternoon, frustrated and clearly in pain, trying to use resistance bands on his own. You are supposed to have supervision for physical therapy. I stood in the doorway, crossing my arms. He looked up, and despite everything, my heart stuttered at the way his face lit up when he saw me. I'm just trying to speed up the process. By injuring yourself? That is counterproductive. I cannot just lie here doing nothing. He set down the bands with visible reluctance. I have lost 5 years, Sloan. 5 years of my life, my company, everything. I need to get strong enough to take back control. You will, but recovery takes time. Pushing too hard will only set you back. I do not have time. He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. My company has been running without me for 5 years. God knows what state it is in. I need to get out of this bed, out of this hospital, back to my life. Your life will still be there after you recover properly. Your health has to come first. Easy for you to say. You have not lost years of your life to unconsciousness. The words were sharp, frustrated, and they hit harder than he probably intended. You are right, I said quietly. I have not been in a coma, but I have lost things too, Beckett. We all have. He looked up at that, and I saw the frustration drain out of him, replaced by regret. I am sorry. That was unfair. I am just scared, I think. Of what? Of what I am going to find when I am finally well enough to leave this room. Of how much has changed. Of who I am now, with all these missing memories. He met my eyes. Of whether there is anything left to salvage of the life I thought I had. I moved into the room properly, sitting in the chair beside his bed. I maintained professional distance, but something in his vulnerability made me want to offer comfort. Change is not always bad. Sometimes the life we lose was not the life we were meant to have anyway. Is that what happened with us? He asked quietly. I was not meant to have you. I do not know. I was honest. Maybe we were meant to have the time we had. Maybe we were meant to teach each other. Maybe there is no grand cosmic plan, and sometimes things just fall apart. I do not believe that. What do you believe? He looked at me with an intensity that reminded me of the man I had fallen in love with. I believe that some connections transcend time and memory. I believe that what we had was real, even if I cannot remember all of it. And I believe that you would not be here, taking care of me despite everything, if there was not still something between us. I am here because it is my job. Is it? Or is there more to it than that? I could have lied, should have lied, but his eyes held mine, and I found myself telling a truth I had not fully admitted to myself. I do not know. Maybe there is a part of me that never fully let go, but that does not change the facts, Beckett. You hurt me, deeply, and I do not know if I can trust you not to do it again. What if I could prove I would not? How? You do not even remember what you did the first time. Then help me remember. Tell me what happened. All of it. Maybe if I understand, I can make sure it never happens again. This was my opening, the moment where I could tell him everything. About the cruelty of those last months, about the pregnancy, about Jasper and Ruby. But his physical therapist's words echoed in my mind. He is pushing too hard, too fast. And I realized that Beckett approached everything in his life the same way, with intensity, with the need for immediate results, with no patience for the slow, steady work of healing. Maybe that was what had broken us the first time. His inability to just be patient, to let things unfold naturally. Not yet, I said finally. You need to focus on your physical recovery first. When you are stronger, when you are out of immediate medical danger, then we can talk about the past. But Sloan, that is my condition, Beckett. You want me to help you understand? Then prove you can take care of yourself first. Prove you can be patient. Prove that you are not just going to burn yourself out trying to fix everything at once. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Okay, I will do it your way. I will be patient. Good. But Sloan? His voice stopped me as I stood to leave. I meant what I said last night. I am not giving up on us. There is no us to give up on. Not yet. He smiled, and it was the smile I remembered from before everything fell apart. But there could be. After I left his room, I leaned against the wall in the hallway and took a shaky breath. This was dangerous. Every conversation with him pulled me further into the past, made me remember what we had been, made me hope for things that were probably impossible. But hope was dangerous when you had children to protect. I needed to tell him about Jasper and Ruby. Soon. Before this got any more complicated. Before I started to believe that second chances were actually possible. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Ruby wants to know if she can bring you lunch at the hospital. I told her you were too busy, but she is very persistent. I smiled despite everything. Tell her maybe this weekend, and that I love her and Jasper more than anything. She says she loves you to the moon and back. Jasper says he loves you to the edge of the observable universe, which is apparently more impressive. Those were my children. Ruby, with her heart on her sleeve. Jasper, with his need to quantify everything. Beckett's children. The children he had no idea existed. And every day I waited to tell him felt like a betrayal. Of him. Of them. Of the possibility of any kind of honest future. That night, I made a decision. I would tell him. This weekend, I would bring the twins to the hospital, introduce them as my children, and let the truth unfold from there. It would be messy, complicated, probably painful for everyone involved, but it was time. Past time, because whatever else happened, Jasper and Ruby deserved to know their father. And Beckett deserved to know the incredible children he had helped create, even if the truth destroyed any chance of us finding our way back to each other, even if it meant opening myself up to more heartbreak. The truth had to come out, and I was running out of time to control how it did. But the universe, as I was learning, had its own timeline, and it did not care about my carefully laid plans. The next morning, I arrived at the hospital with a renewed sense of purpose. I would focus on Beckett's medical care for the next few days, get him stabilized, stronger, prepared. And then this weekend, I would bring the twins. I had it all planned out. What I would say, how I would introduce them. The careful way I would explain that yes, these were his children, and no, I had not deliberately kept them from him. I had rehearsed the conversation in my head a dozen times during the sleepless night. But when I walked onto the neurological floor that Thursday morning, I knew immediately something was wrong. 3 nurses were clustered around the nurses' station, speaking in hushed, urgent tones. They looked up when they saw me, and their expressions were guilty. Caught. What happened? I asked, my stomach dropping. Dr. Washington, the senior nurse, a woman named Michelle who had worked with me for 2 years, stepped forward. We have a situation. What kind of situation? She hesitated, then handed me a tablet showing the hospital's visitor log. I scanned it quickly, then stopped, stared, read it again to make sure I was seeing correctly. Visitor for room 4012, Beatrice Thorne. Time of arrival, 7:45 a.m. Current status, still in room. And beneath that, a second entry. Visitors for room 4012. 2 minors, names Jasper Hartley and Ruby Hartley. Accompanied by adult Catherine Hartley. Time of arrival, 8:15 a.m. Current status, still in room. The tablet nearly slipped from my hands. My mother had brought the twins to the hospital. They were in Beckett's room, right now. I did not plan this, Michelle said quickly, seeing my face. Your mother showed up with the children, said they had an appointment to see you, and asked if they could wait in the family lounge. We did not think anything of it. But then about 10 minutes ago, the little girl asked to use the restroom. Your mother took both kids, and somehow they ended up in Mr. Thorne's room. Somehow, I repeated, my voice hollow, and my mother is in there with them. Michelle looked apologetic. By the time we realized what happened, they had already been in there for 5 minutes. We did not want to cause a scene. I was already moving, walking fast toward Beckett's room, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. This was not how it was supposed to happen. I had planned to prepare everyone, to control the narrative, to make sure the twins were ready, and Beckett was strong enough, and the revelation happened in a way that would not traumatize everyone involved. But life, apparently, did not care about my plans. I reached Beckett's room and paused outside the door. Through the window, I could see them. Ruby was standing beside Beckett's bed, showing him her stuffed bunny and chattering away with the fearless enthusiasm she brought to everything. Jasper stood slightly behind her, quieter but clearly interested, watching Beckett with analytical intensity. Beckett was sitting up in bed, looking between the two children with an expression I could not quite read. Confusion, wonder, something that looked almost like recognition, and my mother stood near the door, her arms crossed, her expression defiant. She knew exactly what she had done. She saw me through the window and had the grace to look slightly guilty, but only slightly. I opened the door. All eyes turned to me. "Mommy." Ruby's face lit up. "Look, we found your friend from the hospital, and he likes Hoppy." She held up her bunny as evidence. I could not speak, could not move, could only stand there as my carefully constructed plans crumbled around me. Beckett was staring at me, then at the children, then back at me. I watched him process the similarities. Ruby's eyes, Jasper's bone structure, the way they both had his dark hair and his expressions. Sloan, his voice was careful, controlled, but I could hear the emotion underneath. "Who are these children?" My mother stepped forward before I could respond. "I am Catherine Hartley, Sloan's mother, and these are her children, Jasper and Ruby." "Your children," Beckett repeated, his eyes never leaving my face. "You have children." It was not a question, but it demanded an answer anyway. "Yes." "How old are they?" Ruby, always helpful, answered before I could. "We are 4, almost 5. Our birthday is in 3 months." I watched Beckett do the math, watched the exact moment the timeline clicked into place. 4 years old. His voice was very quiet, which would make them born approximately. He stopped, looked at me with something that might have been hope or might have been accusation. 9 months after our divorce. The room was silent. Even Ruby, who usually filled every silence with chatter, seemed to sense the weight of the moment. "Mom," I turned to my mother, keeping my voice level. "Can you please take Jasper and Ruby to the cafeteria? Get them some hot chocolate." "Sloan," my mother's voice held a warning. "Please." She studied my face for a long moment, then nodded. "Come on, you two. Let's give your mom and Mr. Thorne some time to talk." "But I wanted to show him my picture," Ruby protested. "You can show him later, sweetheart." My mother took Ruby's hand, then Jasper's. "Say goodbye for now." "Bye." Ruby waved cheerfully at Beckett. "You are really nice. I can see why Mommy has your picture." "What picture?" Beckett asked, but they were already being ushered out of the room. As soon as the door closed behind them, he turned to me. His face was pale, his hands shaking slightly. "Tell me I am wrong." His voice was rough. "Tell me those are not my children." I could not, because they were, obviously, undeniably his. I moved further into the room, closing the door behind me. "We should discuss this privately." "Discuss what?" "The fact that I apparently have 2 children I knew nothing about?" He tried to get out of bed, remembered he was still too weak, fell back with a grunt of frustration. 4 years old, Sloan. They are 4 years old, which means you were pregnant when we divorced." "Yes. And you never told me." I tried. "Try harder." The sharpness in his voice was the first real anger I had heard from him since he woke up. "I called your office. Your personal number was disconnected. I went to the penthouse. You were gone. I contacted your assistant, who told me you wanted no contact with me. What exactly was I supposed to do? You could have tried harder. You could have gone to my mother, to my company, to anyone who could reach me." "Why?" I felt my own anger rising to match his. "So you could accuse me of trying to trap you. So you could demand a paternity test? So your lawyers could fight me for custody while making it clear I was just an inconvenience? Is that really what you think of me? That is what I knew of you. The you who divorced me. The you who called me a mistake. Why would I subject my children to that?" "Our children." Beckett's voice broke on the words. "They are our children, Sloan, and I have missed 4 years of their lives. You missed it because you left, because you made yourself unreachable, because you made it abundantly clear that you wanted nothing to do with me. I was in a coma. For 5 years, yes. But what about the 3 months before that? What about the time between our divorce and your accident? You could have reached out then, could have checked on me. could have shown even the slightest bit of concern for your ex-wife's well-being. Beckett was quiet for a long moment. Then quietly he said, "You are right. Whoever I was then, whatever I was going through, I should have made sure you were okay. And the fact that I did not means I missed knowing about the pregnancy, about the twins, about everything." His admission took some of the wind out of my anger. I sat down heavily in the chair beside his bed. "I did not want to tell you like this. I was planning to bring them this weekend, to prepare you, prepare them, do this properly. But your mother had other ideas. Apparently. Why? I do not know. I will be having words with her about boundaries." Beckett almost smiled at that. Then his expression turned serious again. "Tell me about them. Please, everything." So, I did. I told him about finding out I was pregnant, about the shock of discovering it was twins, about the difficult pregnancy and premature birth, about those first terrifying weeks when they were so tiny and fragile. I told him about Jasper's first word, book, and Ruby's first word, color, about how Jasper loved puzzles and building things, how he had his father, his analytical mind and ability to focus for hours on a problem, about how Ruby was an artist, how she saw the world in terms of emotions and colors, how she was fiercely protective of her brother and had a tender heart that broke over injured birds and sad stories. I told him about their personalities. Jasper, serious and thoughtful, always asking questions about how things worked. Ruby, spontaneous and joyful, making friends with everyone she met. Beckett listened to all of it with an intensity that reminded me of why I had fallen in love with him in the first place. When I finally finished, there were tears on his face. "I missed all of that," he said quietly. "Their first steps, their first words, all of it. Yes. And whose fault is that really?" His voice was not accusatory, just sad. "Yours for not trying harder to reach me, or mine for making myself unreachable in the first place. I think I chose my words carefully. I think we both made choices based on the information we had at the time. I thought you did not want me. You do not remember what you wanted. And 2 children paid the price for our failure to communicate. Can I?" He hesitated. "Can I be their father now? Is it too late?" The question broke my heart a little. It is not too late. But Beckett, you cannot just decide to be a father. It is not a role you step into overnight. They do not know you. You do not know them. Building that relationship will take time. Patience. I have time now. I am not going anywhere. You are still recovering from a 5-year coma. You have a company to rebuild, a life to figure out. You cannot just add fatherhood to that list like it is another item on your agenda. Then what do you suggest? I suggest. I took a deep breath. I suggest we take this slowly. You spend time with them, in supervised visits. You get to know them. They get to know you. We see how they respond, and we build from there. Like I am a stranger asking for visitation rights. You are a stranger to them, Beckett, and they are strangers to you. That is the reality. He closed his eyes, pain evident on his face. This is not how I imagined finding out I was a father. How did you imagine it? I used to think about it sometimes. When we were married, what it would be like when you got pregnant. I imagined being there for the ultrasound, feeling the baby kick, being in the delivery room, holding our child for the first time. He opened his eyes. I imagined we would do it together. We would have, if you had not left. But I do not remember leaving. From my perspective, we were planning a future, and then I woke up and it was all gone. Everything, including 4 years with my children. I know, and I am sorry. I am sorry you lost those years. But I cannot change what happened. I can only move forward. Then let me move forward with you. Let me be part of their lives, part of your life. Beckett, I know you do not trust me. I know I have no right to ask for anything from you. But Sloan, those children deserve a father, and I want to be that for them. I want to be there for everything I have already missed. Please, give me that chance. Before I could answer, there was a knock on the door. My mother opened it without waiting for permission. Sorry to interrupt, but Ruby is asking when she can come back and show Beckett her picture. And Jasper wants to know if... She paused, reading from a note. If Mr. Thorne is interested in discussing the potential applications of artificial intelligence in renewable energy infrastructure. Beckett blinked. He is 4.5. my mother said proudly, and reading at a second-grade level. Beckett looked at me with wonder. He sounds amazing. He is. Can I see them again? Please. I promise I will not overwhelm them. I need to see them. I looked at my mother, who shrugged as if to say, the damage is already done. Okay. But we are going to have a conversation first. I turned to Beckett. You are going to meet them as Mommy's friend, not as their father. Not yet. But Sloan, not yet. They need time to adjust to the idea, and you need time to prove you are ready for this responsibility. He wanted to argue. I could see it in his face, but he nodded. Okay, your terms. Good. I went to the door where my mother waited with barely concealed satisfaction at her meddling. Mom, can you bring them back? Already ahead of you. She stepped aside, revealing Jasper and Ruby in the hallway, both holding cups of hot chocolate. They came back into the room with a child's easy acceptance of strange situations. Ruby immediately went to Beckett's bedside and started showing him the picture she had drawn. A family portrait, 4 stick figures holding hands. This is me. She pointed to a figure with curly hair. And this is Jasper. He is the one with the serious face. And this is Mommy. She has a big heart because she loves us so much. And this is you. Me? Beckett's voice was rough. Mommy has a picture of you, in a frame at home. I copied it. See? You have gray eyes like me and Jasper. Beckett looked at me over Ruby's head. His expression was complicated, painful, full of longing and regret. It is beautiful, he told Ruby. Can I keep it? Really? Ruby's face lit up. You want my picture? I would love it. It will remind me of you and your brother. We can visit you again, Ruby announced with the confidence of a child who had never been rejected. Right, Mommy? We will see. Jasper had been hanging back, watching Beckett with that analytical gaze. Now he stepped forward. Mommy says you run a technology company. What kind of technology? For the next 20 minutes, I watched Beckett talk to our children. He answered Jasper's rapid-fire questions about artificial intelligence, cloud, computing, and sustainable tech with the patience of a natural teacher. He admired Ruby's artwork, asking her detailed questions about her color choices and inspiration that made her glow with pride. He was good with them, natural, present, and watching him with them made my heart ache for all the years he had missed. All the moments we would never get back. You are really smart, Jasper said finally. I can see why Mommy married you. The room went very quiet. You know about that? Beckett asked carefully. We know you and Mommy used to be married, Ruby said. But then you had to be apart. But it is okay because sometimes that happens to grown-ups. Beckett looked at me. What did you tell them? That sometimes people cannot be together, even when they love each other, and that it does not mean anyone did anything wrong. It just means the relationship changed. That is very mature of you, Beckett said. Mommy does not like to speak bad about people. Jasper said, even when they make her sad. Do I make her sad? Beckett asked quietly. Ruby looked at me with her 2 perceptive gray eyes. Sometimes, when she looks at your picture, she gets this face like she is remembering something that hurts. Okay, little Miss Observant. I stood up, clapping my hands together. I think Mr. Thorne needs to rest now. We should let him sleep. Can we come back tomorrow? Ruby asked. We will see. That means yes, Ruby told Beckett confidently. When Mommy says we will see, it usually means yes. After they left, after I had walked them and my mother to the elevator and promised to call later, after I had given my mother a look that communicated we would definitely be discussing her unauthorized field trip, I returned to Beckett's room. He was still holding Ruby's picture, staring at it with an expression of profound loss. They are incredible, he said without looking up. You did an amazing job with them. Thank you. I miss so much. Yes, and I can never get it back. No, he finally looked up at me. But I can be there for everything that comes next. If you let me. This is not about what I let you do, Beckett. This is about what is best for Jasper and Ruby. And I am not convinced that having a father who does not even remember divorcing their mother is what is best for them. Then help me remember. Help me understand what happened between us so I can make sure it never happens again. You keep saying that like there is going to be an us again. There is not. We are co-parents now. That is all. Is it? He wheeled closer to me, and I found myself unable to move. pinned by the intensity of his gaze. Because the way you look at me sometimes, Sloane, the way your voice softens when you talk about what we used to have, that does not feel like someone who has completely moved on. You do not know anything about how I feel. So, tell me, why? What difference does it make? Because, he reached out, and before I could stop him, took my hand. Because I need to know if there is any chance, any possibility that we could find our way back to each other, or if I should accept that I lost the best thing that ever happened to me and focus solely on being a father to our children. His hand was warm around mine, familiar, and for just a moment, I let myself remember what it was like to be loved by this man, to be the center of his world. Then I pulled away. I do not know what I feel. I admitted, part of me never stopped loving you, but part of me will never forgive you for what you did, and I do not know which part is stronger. Then let me prove myself. Let me show you that I can be the man you deserve, the father our children need. How? By being patient, by being present, by doing the work to understand what happened between us and making sure it never happens again. You cannot promise that when you do not even know what went wrong. Then help me figure it out. Before I could respond, Dr. Chen knocked and entered. Good, you are both here. I have Mr. Thorne's latest test results. He spent the next 10 minutes reviewing Beckett's progress. Physically, he was improving rapidly. His muscle strength was returning. His cognitive function was excellent. The prognosis for a full recovery was good. But his memory remains a concern, Dr. Chen said. The retrograde amnesia is not improving. In fact, trying to force the memories could potentially cause more harm than good. So I might never remember those missing months, Beckett said. It is possible. The brain is complex. Sometimes memories return spontaneously. Sometimes they do not. We will continue to monitor, but I would not count on a sudden revelation. After Dr. Chen left, Beckett looked at me. So I might never know why I divorced you, why I said those things, what happened to change me. Maybe that is for the best. How can you say that? Because I moved toward the door. Because maybe not knowing is better than finding out the truth was exactly what you said it was. That I really was a mistake. That you really did not love me. I do not believe that. You do not remember. There is a difference. I left before he could argue further. But his words stayed with me. The question I had been avoiding. What if he never remembered? What if I never got closure? Never got to understand what went wrong? Could I build a CO parenting relationship with a man who existed in a different timeline than me? Who remembered love while I remembered heartbreak? I did not know. That night, I sat down with my mother after the twins went to bed. What were you thinking? I asked, trying to keep my voice level. Taking them to his room without warning me? I was thinking, my mother met my gaze calmly, that you were overthinking this, that those children deserved to meet their father, and that he deserved to meet them. Sometimes, Sloane, you need someone to push you off the fence you have been sitting on. That was not your decision to make. You are right. It was not. And I apologize for overstepping. But, she leaned forward. Do you regret it? Now that it is done, do you wish they had not met? I thought about it. About Ruby's joy in showing Beckett her picture. About Jasper's careful questions and growing curiosity. About the look on Beckett's face when he realized those were his children. No, I admitted. I do not regret it. But I wish it had happened on my terms. Life rarely happens on our terms. My mother smiled gently. But it happened. And now you can move forward, instead of being stuck in planning mode. She was right. Annoyingly, frustratingly right. The twins were full of questions over the next few days. About Beckett, about the hospital, about why he had to stay there. Is Mr. Thorne really our dad? Jasper asked on Friday evening while I was making dinner. I had known this question was coming, had prepared for it. Yes, he is. Why did not you tell us before? Because I knelt down to his level. Because it is complicated. Your dad and I were not together when you were born, and he did not know about you. So I did not know if he would want to be your dad. Does he want to be now? I think so. But we need to take it slow. Get to know each other. Okay. Jasper accepted this with his usual logic. I like him. He is smart. And he listens when I talk. I am glad, baby. Ruby's questions were more emotional. Does Daddy love us? Will he leave again? Can he come live with us? Each one was a knife to my heart. He does love you, I told her, hoping it was true. But he has been very sick and needs to get better first. And as for living with us, that is not how it works, sweetheart. Lots of kids have parents who do not live together. It does not mean they love you any less. I want him to live with us, Ruby said stubbornly. Then we would be a real family. We are already a real family. You, me, Jasper, and Grandma. That is real, but not complete. Her words haunted me. Over the weekend, I brought the twins to visit Beckett twice. Short visits, carefully supervised, focused on gentle bonding. I watched him with them, saw the way he looked at them like they were miracles, the way he listened to every word they said with complete attention, the way he was patient with Ruby's endless chatter and Jasper's complex questions. He was trying, really trying, and despite all my walls, all my protections, I felt something softening inside me. On Sunday evening, after the twins had gone home with my mother, Beckett asked me to stay. I need to tell you something, he said once we were alone. I have been thinking about what you said, about how I cannot promise not to hurt you again when I do not even know what went wrong the first time. Okay, so I hired a private investigator. I stared at him. You did what? I need to know what happened in those missing months. Why I changed, why I divorced you. And if I cannot remember, maybe I can at least reconstruct it. Figure out what was going on in my life that would make me act that way. Beckett, I know it might seem like I am interfering, but Sloan, I have children now. Children I did not know existed. I have an ex-wife who looks at me with pain in her eyes even though she is trying to hide it. I have 5 years of missing time. I need answers. For all of us. What do you expect to find? I do not know. Business problems, maybe. Family pressure. Some kind of personal crisis. Something that would explain why I became someone neither of us recognize. And if you do not find anything, if it turns out you were just a man who fell out of love? Beckett shook his head firmly. That is not what happened. I know it. I know me. And the man I am, the man I remember being, would never have said those things to you without a reason. You cannot know that. I can. Because, Sloan, I still love you. The words hung in the air between us. You cannot. I said it automatically. You do not even know me anymore. I know enough. I know you are brilliant and compassionate. I know you raised our children alone and became head of your department while doing it. I know you could have turned me away when I woke up, could have refused to treat me, but you did not. I know. He paused. I know that when you look at me, there is still something there, some part of what we had. That does not mean we can go back. I do not want to go back. I want to move forward. With you. With the twins. As a family. We are not a family. We are parents to the same children. That makes us family, whether you want to accept it or not. I stood up, needing space. This is too much. You are pushing too hard. I have lost 5 years. I do not have time to go slow. And that is exactly the problem. I turned to face him. You are approaching this like it is a business deal. Like if you just push hard enough, execute the right strategy, you will get the outcome you want. But relationships do not work that way, Beckett. Trust is not built through grand gestures and declarations. It is built through time and consistency and proof. Then let me prove it. How? You are in a hospital bed. You cannot even walk unaided. How are you going to prove anything? By being there, every day, for them, for you, by doing the work to figure out what went wrong so I can make it right. You cannot make the past right. No. But I can build a different future. He was so earnest, so determined, and part of me wanted desperately to believe him, but the other part, the part that had survived our divorce and single motherhood, and 5 years of solo parenting, knew better than to trust in promises. I need to go. I grabbed my bag. The twins have school tomorrow. Sloan. Wait. I paused at the door. I am not giving up, he said quietly. On you. On us. On the possibility that we could have the life we were supposed to have before everything fell apart. There is no us. Not yet. His smile was sad, but determined. But there will be. That week, I threw myself into work. Used the demands of the hospital to avoid thinking about Beckett's declaration, about the feelings it had stirred up. But avoiding him was impossible when he was my patient. I saw him daily for medical checks. watched his continued improvement. His mobility was returning rapidly. By midweek, he was walking short distances with a walker. By Friday, he was managing on his own, though still wobbly. His determination to recover was impressive and concerning. "You are pushing too hard again," I told him on Thursday when I found him doing extra physical therapy on his own. "I have to." He was breathing hard, sweat on his forehead. "The investigator is finding things. I need to be strong enough to handle what is coming." "What kind of things?" "Irregularities in the company finances, starting about 6 months before the divorce." "What kind of irregularities?" "Money being moved, offshore accounts. It is subtle, but it is there. Someone was embezzling from Thorn Innovations, and a timeline suggests I had figured it out." "You think that is why you changed?" "I think." He sat down heavily, still catching his breath. "I think someone threatened you, to keep me quiet, and I pushed you away to protect you." The theory hit me like a punch to the chest. "What?" "It makes sense, Sloan. I would never just stop loving you. Not without a reason. But if someone threatened to hurt you unless I backed off from investigating them, if pushing you away kept you safe, I would have done it. That is a big assumption based on some financial irregularities. Maybe. But my investigator is digging deeper. And if I am right, if someone did threaten you, then everything changes. It means the divorce was not real. It means I was trying to protect you. Or it means you are creating a story to justify what happened because you cannot accept that you just did not love me anymore." Beckett looked at me with such intensity, I had to look away. "I loved you. I love you still. And I will prove it." Before I could respond, my phone rang. The hospital operator. "Dr. Washington, you have a visitor in the main lobby, a Mr. Trevor Gaines. He says it is urgent. I will be right down." I ended the call and looked at Beckett. "Do you know anyone named Trevor Gaines?" His face went pale. "Trevor? Yes. He is my business partner. Or was. Before the accident. He is here. Wants to see me. Why would he want to see you?" "I do not know, but I'm about to find out." I found Trevor Gaines in the lobby. Tall, handsome in a polished way, wearing an expensive suit and an expression of concern that did not quite reach his eyes. "Dr. Washington?" He extended his hand. "Trevor Gaines, I am sorry to bother you at work, but I heard that Beckett woke up from his coma, and I wanted to speak with someone about his condition before I visit him. His condition is improving. What is your relationship to Mr. Thorn?" "Business partner. Old friend. We built Thorn Innovations together. His accident was devastating. To all of us. Something about him made my skin crawl. But I could not put my finger on what. He is accepting visitors. You can see him now if you would like." "Actually, I wanted to speak with you first, about his recovery, his memory." Trevor's smile was practiced, smooth. "I heard there are some gaps. Retrograde amnesia affecting the period before his accident. It is not uncommon with traumatic brain injury, so he does not remember the months leading up to the accident." "No. Interesting." Trevor looked thoughtful. "That might actually be for the best. He was under a lot of stress during that time. Business pressures, the divorce. It might be better if he does not remember." "Why do you say that?" "Because," Trevor met my eyes, and something in his gaze made me deeply uncomfortable. "Because Beckett was not himself in those final months. Paranoid, erratic, pushing everyone away. Some of us worried he might hurt himself. When the accident happened, he trailed off meaningfully. You think he crashed intentionally. I think he was in a very dark place, and maybe it is better if he does not remember that darkness. Every instinct I had was screaming that something was wrong, that this smooth, concerned act was hiding something dangerous. I will let him know you are here." I kept my voice professional. "Room 4012. After Trevor left for the elevators, I stood in the lobby for a long moment. Then I pulled out my phone and called Beckett's room. He answered on the second ring. "Sloan? Trevor Gaines is on his way to your room. Do not tell him anything about the investigation. Do not mention the financial irregularities. Just be careful." "Why? What happened?" "I do not know, but something feels wrong about him." "I will be careful." "Sloan, thank you for warning me." After we hung up, I found myself walking toward the elevators. I told myself I was just being thorough, checking on a patient, but truthfully, I wanted to see Trevor and Beckett together. Wanted to see if my instincts were right. I reached the neurological floor in time to see Trevor entering Beckett's room. I positioned myself at the nurse's station where I could see through the window without being obvious. Trevor's body language was all wrong. He stood too far from the bed. His smile did not reach his eyes. And when Beckett asked him about the company, I saw something flash across Trevor's face. Fear, or maybe guilt. They talked for about 10 minutes. Then Trevor left, passing by the nurse's station without seeing me. I waited until he was gone, then went to Beckett's room. He looked shaken. What happened? He is lying, Beckett said immediately. About everything. He said the company has been struggling, that we were on the verge of bankruptcy before the accident, that I was making erratic decisions that threatened everything we had built. And that is not true. I have been reviewing financial records my investigator obtained. The company was thriving. Record profits, successful product launches. There was no financial crisis. So, why would he lie? Unless, Beckett's face hardened, unless he is the one who was embezzling, and he is trying to cover his tracks now that I am awake. That is a serious accusation. I know. That's why I need proof. Over the next week, Beckett's investigator worked overtime, and what he found was damning. Trevor Gaines had been systematically stealing from Thorne Innovations for over a year before Beckett's accident. Millions of dollars funneled into offshore accounts through a complex network of shell companies. The timeline matched perfectly with when Beckett had started changing, becoming distant, paranoid, according to Trevor's description, because Beckett had been investigating, had been getting close to discovering the truth. And the investigator found something else, maintenance records for Beckett's car, records that showed the brake lines had been tampered with. The accident was not an accident. It was attempted murder. When Beckett told me, I felt my world shift. He tried to kill you. I sat down heavily in the chair beside his bed. Trevor tried to kill you, and he probably threatened you first, to get me to back off. That is why I pushed you away. That is why I said those terrible things. I was trying to keep you safe. You do not know that for sure. But it makes sense. Everything makes sense now. My behavior, the divorce, the accident. He orchestrated all of it. What are you going to do? I am going to the police, with evidence, and I am going to make sure Trevor Gaines pays for what he did. Beckett. He looked at me, and I saw the man I had fallen in love with. Not the cold stranger who had divorced me. Not the confused patient who had woken from a coma. But the man I had married. Determined, passionate, fighting for what he believed in. I know this does not change anything between us, he said quietly. I still hurt you. Still made you believe I did not love you. But Sloan, I need you to know, the man who said those things to you was not really me. He was a man trying desperately to save the woman he loved. The tears I had been holding back finally fell. You should have told me, should have let me help. I know, and that was my mistake, not trusting you to be strong enough to face it with me. I would have stood by you. I know that now. His voice was rough with emotion. And I will regret not giving you that chance for the rest of my life. The police came that afternoon. Beckett gave them everything. The financial records, the evidence of embezzlement, the maintenance reports showing sabotage. They arrested Trevor Gaines at his office downtown. The news broke within hours. Billionaire's business partner arrested for embezzlement and attempted murder. The story was everywhere. And suddenly, everything I thought I knew about my divorce was different. Beckett had not stopped loving me. He had pushed me away to save me. The cruel things he had said were lies meant to make me leave before I got hurt. The divorce that had destroyed me was his desperate attempt at protection. I did not know how to feel about that. Relief that it had not been about me. Anger that he had not trusted me. Grief for all the years we had lost. All of it. I felt all of it at once. That night, after the twins were asleep, I sat in my dark living room and cried. For the marriage we had lost. For the years Beckett had missed with our children. For the pain we had both endured because he had tried to be a hero instead of a partner. My mother found me there an hour later. She did not say anything. Just sat beside me and held my hand while I fell apart. When I finally stopped crying, she spoke. What are you going to do? I do not know. Do you still love him? I never stopped. Then the question is not whether you love him. It is whether you can trust him again. Whether you can forgive him for not letting you be part of the solution, I do not know if I can. Then figure it out. My mother squeezed my hand. But do not let fear make the decision for you. Those children deserve to see their parents try. The next day, I requested a personal day from work, asked my mother to take the twins for the day, and went to see Beckett. He was in his room, reading through legal documents related to Trevor's arrest. He looked up when I entered, and something in my expression made him set the papers aside. "Sloan, I need to say some things, and I need you to listen without interrupting." He nodded. I took a deep breath. "I understand now why you did what you did. I understand that you were trying to protect me. But Beckett, you did not just push me away. You destroyed me. You made me believe I was not good enough, that I was a mistake, that loving you had been the worst decision of my life. Sloan, I am so sorry. I am not finished." I moved closer to the bed. "You took away my choice. You decided unilaterally that it was better to break my heart than to trust me with the truth. And in doing so, you denied me the chance to be your partner, to stand beside you through a crisis, to prove that our marriage was stronger than threats and danger. You are right. I should have trusted you. Yes, you should have." I felt tears threatening but pushed them back. "And because you did not, I spent 5 years believing I was unlovable. I raised our children alone. I rebuilt myself from scratch, and I did it thinking that the man I loved most in the world had thrown me away like garbage. I will never forgive myself for that. I do not need you to forgive yourself. I need you to understand that what you did, even with good intentions, was a betrayal. You betrayed my trust, our partnership, everything we had promised each other." Beckett's face was anguished. "I know, and I would give anything to go back and make a different choice. But you cannot, and I have to decide whether I can move forward knowing that when things got difficult, your instinct was to push me away rather than pull me closer. Can you?" His voice was barely a whisper. "Can you move forward? I do not know." I was honest. Part of me wants to. Part of me sees you with Jasper and Ruby and thinks we could be a family. But part of me is terrified that the next time life gets hard, you will make the same choice. You will decide I need to be protected rather than trusted. I will not. I swear to you, Sloan. I have learned. I will never make that mistake again. You cannot promise that. I can, because these 5 years of nothing, 5 years of missing my children grow up, 5 years without you, that is worse than any threat Trevor could have made. I would rather face danger with you beside me than spend another day without you. The words were everything I had wanted to hear 5 years ago. But were they enough now? I need time, I said finally. Time to process this, to figure out if I can trust you again. Take all the time you need. And in the meantime, we focus on the twins, on building your relationship with them, because they deserve a father, even if you and I never figure out how to be together again. Agreed. I moved toward the door, then paused. Beckett? Yes, I am glad you are alive. I am glad Trevor did not succeed, and I am glad our children will get to know their father. But I do not know if I can be your wife again. I do not know if I can risk my heart like that a second time. I understand. As I left his room, I felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness, exactly, but maybe the first step toward it. The beginning of a path forward. Whether that path led back to Beckett or simply toward peaceful Keo parenting, I did not know. But for the first time in 5 years, I had answers. I had truth, and maybe that was enough for now. If you believe in the power of truth and second chances, let me know in the comments. And make sure you are subscribed, because the journey to forgiveness is just beginning. And what Sloan decides will change everything. The next 2 months were a study in patience and small steps. Beckett was released from the hospital with a clean bill of health. His recovery had been remarkable, aided by his determination and the excellent care he had received. He moved into an apartment near mine. Not presumptuous, not too close, but close enough to be present for the twins. And he was present, every day. He attended Ruby's preschool art show, where she proudly showed him every painting she had made that year. He helped Jasper build a model rocket, spending hours carefully explaining the physics of propulsion. He showed up for bedtime stories, weekend pancakes, trips to the park. He learned their routines, their favorite foods, what made them laugh, and what helped them calm down when they were upset. and he never, not once, pressured me for more than I was willing to give. We were co-parents, partners in raising the twins, friendly but carefully distant. Except sometimes, I would catch him looking at me with such longing it made my chest hurt. Or I would watch him with the children and remember what it felt like to be loved by him. Those moments were dangerous. Trevor Gaines was prosecuted. The evidence was overwhelming. Embezzlement. Attempted murder. He was convicted and sentenced to 25 years in prison. During the trial, more details emerged about what had happened. Trevor had been stealing from the company for over a year. When Beckett started getting suspicious, Trevor had someone threaten me. Anonymous messages. A car that followed me. Small things designed to frighten without being traceable. Beckett had noticed, had hired his own security to watch me without my knowledge, and had made the decision to push me away to keep me safe. It was a decision born of love and fear, but it was still the wrong decision. After the trial, Beckett came to me. We need to talk. We were sitting on a bench at the park while the twins played on the swings. A familiar scene from the past 2 months. Okay, I have been thinking a lot about what you said, about how I took away your choice, how I did not trust you to be strong enough to handle the truth. Beckett, let me finish. Please. He turned to face me fully. You were right about all of it. I was so focused on protecting you that I did not see how I was actually hurting you. I thought I was being noble, sacrificing our relationship for your safety. But really, I was being a coward. You were not a coward. You were scared. I was terrified of losing you, of something happening to you because of my business problems. And instead of trusting our partnership, I made a unilateral decision that destroyed us. Why are you telling me this now? Because, he took a deep breath, because I want you to know that I have learned. I have spent 2 months watching you parent our children with wisdom and patience, watching you navigate your career and your personal life with strength I cannot even comprehend. And I finally understand what I failed to see before. What is that? That you do not need me to protect you. You need me to stand beside you, to trust you, to be your partner, not your guardian. The words settled into my chest like puzzle pieces finally finding their place. I still love you, he continued. I have never stopped loving you, but I understand that love is not enough. You need to be able to trust me, and I know I have not earned that yet. No, you have not. So I am asking, give me a chance to earn it, not through grand gestures, not through pushing, but through time and consistency and proving that I can be the partner you deserve. I looked at him, really looked at him, at the man who had broken my heart and then spent 2 months quietly putting in the work to understand why, who showed up for our children every single day without fail, who had learned patience and humility. He was different from the man I had married, changed by trauma and loss and hard lessons, but maybe I was different too. Okay, I said finally. Okay, we can try. Slowly, carefully. But we can try. The smile that broke across his face was like sunrise. Really? But Beckett, if you ever, and I mean ever, try to protect me by pushing me away again, we are done. Forever. No second chances. I will not. I swear to you. From now on, we face everything together. Together. The word felt foreign and familiar all at once. Over the next months, we rebuilt what we had lost. Not the same relationship. Something new. Something forged through honesty and hard lessons. We went on dates. Carefully planned evenings where we learned each other all over again. Not the people we had been, but the people we had become. We talked, really talked, about our fears and hopes, and everything in between. No more secrets, no more protection through distance. And slowly, carefully, I let myself trust him again. The twins noticed, of course. Children always do. Are you and Daddy getting married again? Ruby asked one evening while I was tucking her in. I do not know, sweetheart. Maybe someday. I hope so. She snuggled into her blankets. I like it when we are all together. It feels right. It did feel right. That was what scared me. 6 months after Beckett woke from his coma, he asked me a question. We were at his apartment. The twins were asleep in the room he had set up for them, complete with Ruby's artwork on the walls and Jasper's model rockets on the shelves. Sloan. He took my hand. I have something to ask you. My heart rate spiked. Okay, not that. He smiled, reading my panic. Not yet. I know you need more time, but I wanted to ask, would you consider family therapy, the four of us together, to help us navigate this new dynamic? The request surprised me and touched me. You want to go to therapy? I want us to have every tool possible to make this work, to make sure Jasper and Ruby feel secure, to give us the best chance at building something lasting. That sounds like a good idea. Yeah? Yeah. We started family therapy the following week. It was hard, emotional. There were sessions where we all cried, where old wounds were reopened, where progress felt impossible. But we kept showing up, all four of us, doing the work. And slowly, we became a family. Not perfect, not without scars, but real, honest, built on truth instead of secrets. 1 year after waking from his coma, Beckett proposed. Not with a grand gesture, not with a public declaration. Just the two of us, sitting on the beach at sunset where he had proposed the first time. With the twins building sandcastles nearby and the waves rolling in. I know I already asked you this once, he said quietly. 7 years ago in almost this exact spot. But that was a different life, different people. So I want to ask again. He pulled out a ring. Not the same one from before. Something new. Sloane Hartley, will you marry me? Not because of our past or our children or because it makes logical sense, but because I love you, the person you are now, the woman who survived everything I put her through and came out stronger. Will you take a chance on us one more time? I looked at the ring, then at Beckett, then at our children playing in the sand. I thought about everything we had been through, the love and the loss, the heartbreak and the healing. And I thought about the future, not perfect, but possible. Ask me again in 6 months, I said finally. He blinked. What? 6 months? To prove that this is not just emotion or guilt or the idea of us. 6 months of continued therapy and partnership and showing up. And then ask me again. Okay, he smiled. Though that was not the answer I was hoping for. It is the answer you need. 6 months later, on a random Tuesday evening while we were making dinner together with the twins, he asked again. No ring this time. No sunset. Just the four of us in my kitchen with pasta sauce bubbling on the stove. Sloane, will you marry me? Ruby gasped. Jasper looked up from his homework with interest. And I, surrounded by the family we had built from broken pieces, said yes. We were married 3 months later. Small ceremony. Just family and close friends. The twins as our wedding party. Ruby insisted on painting a special portrait for the occasion. Our family, she said. Complete. Jasper gave a short speech about the statistical probability of people who divorce and remarry staying together. It was very encouraging, he said with perfect seriousness, making everyone laugh. As I walked down the aisle toward Beckett, I thought about the journey that had brought us here, the heartbreak and the healing, the years apart and the slow rebuilding. This was not the fairy tale I had imagined when I married him the first time. It was better, real, earned. When we exchanged vows, they were different too. Not just promises of love, but promises of trust, of communication, of facing everything together. I promise to trust you with the truth, Beckett said, his voice thick with emotion. Even when it is hard, even when I am scared, I promise to be your partner, not your protector, to stand beside you, not in front of you. I promise to believe in you. I responded, to give you the chance to prove yourself, to build this marriage on honesty instead of secrets, and to love you, not just for who you were or who you might be, but for exactly who you are. When we kissed to seal our marriage, our children cheered, and for the first time in years, I felt complete. The epilogue. 5 years later, Beckett and I sat on our back porch watching Jasper and Ruby play with their younger brother, 3-year-old Oliver, who had his father's eyes and his mother's stubbornness. The twins were 9 now, brilliant, confident, secure in the knowledge that they were loved by both parents, that their family, unconventional as it was solid. Hard to believe it has been 6 years, Beckett said quietly, his arm around my shoulders. 6 years since I woke up. 6 years since our lives changed. For the better. I leaned into him. Definitely for the better. Do you ever regret it? He asked. Taking me back? Giving me another chance? Sometimes. I was honest. When you are stubborn, or when you forget to load the dishwasher properly, or When you let Jasper stay up too late working on projects. He laughed. Fair. But no, I do not regret it. This life, this family, it is exactly what I needed, even if I had to lose everything first to find it. I am sorry you had to lose everything. I am not. I turned to look at him. Because the woman I became through that loss, she is stronger, braver, and she knows her worth. I needed to be her before I could be your wife again. I love her. The woman you became, the woman you are. I love you too. The man who learned, who grew, who proved himself. We sat in comfortable silence, watching our children play. Our family, hard-won and deeply cherished. This is not a story about a perfect love. It is a story about a love that survived imperfection, about two people who lost each other and found their way back through honesty, patience, and the kind of hard work that builds something lasting. It is about second chances and the courage to take them. Sometimes the greatest love stories are not about people who never face obstacles. They are about people who face insurmountable obstacles and choose love anyway. Choose to do the work. Choose to rebuild. Choose to believe that broken things, when mended with care, can be even more beautiful than they were before. And as I sat there with my husband, watching our 3 children play in the fading sunlight, I knew that every moment of pain, every year of heartbreak, every difficult step of rebuilding had been worth it. Because this was everything. If this story touched your heart, if you believe in the power of redemption and second chances, please like and share this video. Comment below and tell me, would you have given Beckett a second chance? Have you ever had to rebuild trust after betrayal? Your stories matter. And subscribe to Love and Twilights with Dr. Phillips for more stories about love, loss, and the courage to try again. Because everyone deserves a story with a second chapter. Everyone deserves the chance to rewrite their ending. Until next time, remember this: it is never too late to wake up to love. It is never too late to choose healing. And it is never too late to become the person your story needs you to be. Thank you for taking this journey with Beckett and Sloan, with Jasper and Ruby and little Oliver, with a family that proves that sometimes the most beautiful things in life come from the pieces of what we thought was broken forever. See you in the next story, where love and twilight meet and anything is possible.